Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kaunas. Thank you, Anna, for such a nice introduction of my practice. In fact, I was listening to it now and I thought, like, sociologist, visual artist, policy consultant. I want to meet this guy. He's mixing a lot of interesting things. But then, yeah, these practices are, in fact, very important to the ideas I want to share with you today. It's this mix that brought me to the thinking about culture, which I have today. And while looking at the program, today I thought we're gonna have a lot of interesting speeches, and one of the keywords which could be used to name them, is value. Yeah, value of our work, value of culture, value of what we do every day and what our audiences receive. Indeed, there's no legacy. Legacy is not important if there's nothing of a value. And value is not important without social act of evaluation. And that's become, for sociologists, very, very interesting. How do we evaluate something? What's our focus? What we choose to see and we choose to see not? How do we evaluate? What are our practices? Do we applaud or do we use, scientific methods to measure things? And finally, we understand that what, how, when, and why we evaluate also has to do with questions of power, how we organize our societies, who's deciding what, and how we can argue between ourselves and come to a conclusion what's valuable and what's not. So that's the things which are very important to me. And of course, speaking about value of culture is nothing new for the last 2 decades. It's a power horse of cultural policies, speaking economic benefits of value, social benefits of value, and we have all the right and random answers of what values could be. Let's name some of the discursive values we usually speak about. In this context, for example, culture helps economic and urban development of cities. Culture helps to facilitate social inclusions. Culture strengthens health and well-being of our citizens. We know it from COVID times. Cultural interventions help to create platforms for intercultural dialogue. It's very important when we have, people fleeing war and coming to their, safety shelters. These are kind of a very spread strategy of speaking about culture value using narrative on indirect effects. That's we see a lot. National policies all around. It's kind of a common strategy how to speak about value of culture. And it's not self-evident because there could be other ways to speak about it. It's, in fact, you maybe could hear in this narrative that, okay, we somehow try to describe value of culture through, values which are per se not cultural. It's not maybe the very heart of what we do. We choose to go around and speak about value through values which are usually created in other sectors and could be possibly achieved in other ways. And that's an important point I want you to think about. And I'm thinking about it all the time almost now, full time. And there's underlying the logic of power, why we choose to think about culture value this or another way. And we, as culture professionals, we often asked, how do you measure your performance? What's your achievement? What's the value for taxpayers' money? Well, it's a kind of hard language. Maybe we could choose not to use it today, not to speak about these things today. It's a nice day, you know. Maybe a bit boring, bureaucratic. Let's choose some other meaningful topic. But the thing is that in order to have legacy, any kind of legacy, we will probably have to defend this legacy against the language, against the system, bureaucratic system and management systems we are programmed to use this language. It's the bread and butter, and it's the way we currently organize our societies. So that's important, but at the same time, you know, it's not very easy for someone doing consulting or research in culture policy. One of the kind of effects of this approach is that we are using, you know, try to monetize value of culture, which is okay to do that. Money is important. But, you know, when trying to answer this grand question, what is the value of culture in terms of taxpayers' money, I sometimes get frustrated. It's okay question and it's not okay question, and so I usually start to feel as a consultant in this, you know, situation of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Maybe someone knows this movie or TV show from 80s in Britain. Then there's a society which, you know, creates a supercomputer and comes to it and says, we want to know answer to ultimate question. What is the meaning of light, universe, everything? Please give us this answer. And computer says, yes, okay, I'll do it. It's gonna take 2 million years, come back in 2 million years, and I'll give you an answer. And then society comes back to computer in 2 million years or something and says, and what's the answer? You're not gonna like it. No, we waited so long. What's the answer? The answer is 42, you know. So it's kind of this situation when you try to monetize culture, to put it into numbers, you know that you always leave some very important things out. And how do you play this game? It's still the main, you know, the main way of managing our societies, bureaucracies, using science, using indicators, using numbers. There's one way, and it's becoming very popular. It's to flirt with this method and see what we can do. What amount of it we can actually monetize or put in other important numbers. But I always, you know, had a kind of gut feeling that we would still think what we are losing while going this direction, or how we could improve our speaking about the value of culture. At this point, any bureaucrat would say, come on, Tadas, you're getting too philosophical. Shoot a practical example, okay? It's enough, okay? It's okay, it's a practical example. The number is not 42, it's 29.5. And at the turn of 2022, we asked Kaunas region residents, how many of you have you visited any of Kaunas European Capital of Culture events? And that is the share of people who said, yes, we did. Well, anyone who had a simple degree in social sciences know that in reality this part is not as sharp, you know. It's not like this hard evidence I'm throwing at you. It's a bit softer, okay? It's a bit softer, and that's okay. It's okay. The methods have the, you know, error. So I would suggest to change focus, because in cultural research sometimes we stop at this point and let's see it differently. let's see, depending on the skepticism about surveys, and it's very popular to be now skeptical about scientific methods. It's okay. But even if you are very, very skeptical, it's okay. There are at least 77,000 people whose lives were touched by the program. And most likely is something towards 100,000 of people whose lives were touched in one way or another by the program of European Capital of Culture, KONAS 2022. Should we stop here? I think it's a very beautiful planet, or it looks like a sun or something. Or maybe it's a piece of social space of KONAS region. But I think what's valuable and important starts only when you go deep into the lives of these people. What do we see with scientific methods in this galaxy of KONAS 2022? We see that it's a very, very heterogeneous group. It's not monumental group. You can find people from all walks of life there. Gender, age, education, workers, managers, all the things which we find important scientifically, in influencing cultural lifestyle, so to speak, are not that much important for this galaxy. In other words, KONAS 22 is delivering one of its promises, is creating a culture program for all. And I think it's not without hard work of cultural professionals who did it, both in KONAS, from all around the country and guests outside. And they really, really deserve a warm round of applause for this achievement. They deserve it. It's 100,000 people's lives touched. So, there was a bit of hesitation there. And usually it's counter arguments comes, but what about other people? We have equally important other planets as social space of KONAS. We have those who didn't come. We have this small, nice planet who don't even know what we are talking about when you say KONAS 2022. It's not huge, but it's still human lives, Maybe in deep poverty, social exclusion, maybe very old and bodies, going towards direction of death. There are different life stories, why you in one or another planet. So in a very blunt logic of, power and logic of contemporary management, what if we throw all this money to these planets? Or maybe we throw this money to infrastructure. We throw this money to, what else? Something. Healthcare. Maybe this value will, spread better around everything. And that's, for me, when I was doing consultancy, and I'm an artist, culture is an important part of my life, I was going frustrated when this is coming. I cannot, it's not legit question, but I always thought there's something wrong underneath this question. But it's very, kind of usual question, especially from those who don't want to finance cultural interventions, because it's kind of clear. It's a hard question. Yeah. So I was frustrating, thinking, working, then having holidays, and this thing was haunting me for quite a while. But it's only until I met one special woman that I kind of calmed down and find my own, retreat to my own position when I feel quite safe, I know how I think, I know how I react to this kind of questions. And I want you to meet this woman. Her name is Flores, and she's one of the few Homo florescensis we know. I met her in Swedish Museum of Natural History in Stockholm. And Flores, you know, she's special. Why she's special? Her bones, you know, are few of the bones of Homo florescensis we found in Indonesia, and we could reconstruct this nice Homo being, which is almost like we, but not yet we, but yeah, it's a very nice reconstruction. It was in a very dim light of the museum. She's very small, about 1 meter height. She had a spear in her hand to, you know, to defend herself or look for food, to hunt something. And she had this very human look. And she was looking at me. I was looking at her. I thought she's afraid of me or she's curious. Very human look. Okay, now you can see, Tadas, where are I going? Why are you showing this? It's like it's form of culture, but in fact we are sharing some history with Flores. Let's see, around 300,000 years before Christ, humans were started to make tools. And Flores was good at that. I saw her spear. She could really hunt something, and it's a good design, you know, design. In other words, relating to nature through objects, part of our culture. Later on, halfway through the history towards our times, humans are already wearing clothing. She had some pieces of fashion design also. We don't know if she spoke. Probably she spoke like ooh, ah, ah, ah. That's kind of close to poetry, not very highbrow, I say. But come on, it's 150 years back, you know. So don't judge Flores. She's my friend, and we have this history too. We were like that. So language, part of culture, yeah. Around halfway from that time towards our time, it becomes even more interesting. Humans start with their first forms of abstract art. And it's about the time when family of Flores extincts. We could ask, did abstract art kill Flores? No, it didn't. In fact, most likely we did kill Flores. And it's even more uncomfortable truth that some of you, Flores is some of yours grandmother. You bear her DNA in you. So it's complicated history. Maybe want to forget that a little bit. Halfway through that, after Flores and the likes extinct, we have figurative painting so good in French caves that we can express our worldview fully through picture. That's culture. And only 7,000 years ago, we invent currency, a very tremendously important tool of exchange. Where I'm leading, you maybe can start to feel now that, okay, we have this very nice thing called money, and it's a very synthetic and abstract means of exchange, meaning exchange. And what in present management circles we do, we try to use the system of meaning exchange and evaluation to evaluate some things which, let's agree, are kind of a bit more complex and complicated. So if we are gonna do this, or rather if we are gonna do only this, we're gonna lose some of the important focus, some of the value unattended. So yeah, I think that's very important to think about. What should we do then with this exploration? I think that the message here, at least what I want to say, that what makes us humans is that we do create meanings, and we have a culture sector, which is a sector of symbolic capital, creation of symbolic capital. The focus of this sector is meanings. So I suggest you, whenever you think about value of culture, you think about meaning. And yeah, not all the meanings we create will be transformed in economic value or maybe even social value, but doesn't mean that it's not, not valuable itself if we cannot prove it. And, Flora is extincted. She didn't like abstract art. No, not because of that, but yeah, it's an important foundation of our societies, and we have to constantly work on developing it. And only when we keep this focus, we will be able to translate the value of our work to the rest of society. So the problem with this view is not that it's vague or not self-evident maybe, but you can also become a bit, detached from other social fields of social life, because firefighters also do meaningful work. Medics fighting COVID, risking their lives, that's meaningful work. So we have to speak about meaning in very practical terms, on the ground. And I think one of the legacies of KONAS 2022 program and Capital itself, that it brought this approach to culture sector. It's very, very important. And when we see meaning at this ground level, we have to speak what our meanings are created, what meanings are new to our societies, how they circulate in societies, how, they create unexpected transactions, social transactions between those who are doing cultures in their everyday life, and maybe those who are doing it less so or doing it differently through popular culture or through design of making ways or something. So that's what we are going to research, and we are researching in our evaluation, and we chose this focus as something that can inform our future cultural practices. But before ending, I want also, to show that there's so many ways to look at social space of KONAS regions. Everyone outside it who joins us for the KONAS 2022 events, I would see as a collection of kind of donuts or something. That's the way I see, and I invite you to see our social space now. So we have this one galaxy, which they say, yes, we are definitely going to come to KONAS 2022 events. And this, black hole is of those who already been in KONAS 2022 events. And this black hole of culture have sucked them already. The gravity of culture is, so strong that these people are yours, in your hands. We have those, who say a bit hesitant, yes, most likely will come to Kaunas 2022 events. Some of them already been in Kaunas 2022 events. The black hole is a bit smaller. Hesitation is there. But we can still meet them. We can still interact with them. Or maybe it also shows that it's, people are hesitant to say that, oh, maybe I will not come to Kaunas 2022 event. That's also showing something, Also, we have this small planet, and it's important who don't know what Kaunas 2022 is. Or maybe they don't know if they come. And COVID really did a blow here. We see effects we have to fight, and they will be continuing effects of people, especially in elder age, who are afraid because of their health, because their bodies are different and they are under greater risk to do what we expect them to do. Yeah, and there are all smaller, galaxies in our space, and I think what is important to look at in our research and our daily practices, how they still interact if they practice culture differently. So I think we also stepping a very big step forward in understanding that how it circulates. And sociology helps me a lot, in doing that. In fact, when I was trying to explain my 6-year-old son, what are you doing when you're working on cultural sociology, and was like, he's late at night writing something, and I'm doing sociology, and what sociologists do. And I said, okay, there was this guy, Norbert Elias, speaking bluntly, British sociologist, speaking bluntly, he was researching why people at some point in UK history decided that it's not okay to fart at the table. It was a good example for my kid to explain. It was at some point okay to fart at the table, and suddenly it's not okay. And this guy, Norbert, he was researching all the King's Court's documents, and he found the pattern, how the culture of King's environment disperses all over the society. It takes time, centuries. Now it's faster, but we shouldn't be very focused or sad that the size of our planet directly affected is this large or that small, because culture has this power to disperse. And I think, I see I need to finish now. So I simply will finish with thanking you for the attention. I see that we are going to have a very meaningful day today, fun day, and once again, a warm thanks to all the culture professionals who made this day possible, made the year possible, and who help us to look for meaning. Thank you.